Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about Don't Say a Word, the 2001 psychological thriller. This is one of my favorite movies, and sadly, it is a movie that has been forgotten. It kind of just came and went. And sadly, it didn't do that well at the box office. It had a budget of 50 million, but only made 100 million. And while the movie, I believe, is truly a good movie, it's not like perfect. It's not like the greatest movie of all time, but it's really good and it keeps you on the edge of your seat and you'll never ever be bored watching this movie. However, there are some things in this movie that causes you to kind of like scratch at your head and kind of like, well, why did that happen? Or why didn't they just do this? Or they had the opportunity to do this. And so you kind of like think about stuff like that. So it is based on like a novel. And, it's one of those movies I feel like, and this is what I hate about the early 2000s and when like movies kind of come and go. The early 2000s was kind of like a rough time for movies. Things were changing. We was in a new era and everything. And like one thing about this movie I hate is the filter they keep using. In some scenes, there's a light blue filter. In other scenes, like outside, like during the day and everything. I'm all like, why is there a bright light blue filter? Then when you're inside, like, a building, this like dingy building, the psych ward and everything, there's a bright green filter. I'm all like, why is there a filter on this thing? And the Matrix was really big around this time. So a lot of movies were kind of doing that. And yes, it kind of does set the tone for where you're at. Now the blue tone, they can get rid of that. The green one, I'm okay with them using that in the psych ward because, it's a psych ward and it's supposed to be like this dingy kind of place, and stuff like that. And well, I really wish this movie didn't flop at the box office, man, because it's kind of like this is something I've always wanted to talk about, you know what I'm saying? I think it's somewhere on streaming, I'm not sure where. I own it on DVD. But like a lot of people have a fondness for it now than what they didn't have back then. And, some people gave it negative reviews and the other one gave it pretty favorable and everything. And people love the performance of Brittany Murphy. My God, this was probably one of her best performances ever. Like when you see it and you see the way she acts, she really stripped herself down, acted like a completely different person, had a completely different mindset because she plays that of a disturbed woman, a disturbed young woman and everything. Her character is probably only about 18, 19 years old. And she witnessed something very traumatic at around like 8 years old or so, or maybe 10 or something like that. They don't really say exactly how old she is, but we do know there's a 10-year difference between the past events and the present events. And she has PTSD, and she's been living in a mental ward for 10 whole years of her life. And when you see the deterioration of her appearance and like, the way she talks, her mannerisms and stuff, it is perfect. She should have won an award for that. I don't think nobody was nominated for anything in this movie, but it's quite a shame. The only problem I have with her character is that, like, in general, Brittany Murphy is hot. She's stunning. And, like, the movie doesn't hide that at all. Like, when you see her in the psych ward, you just kind of like, she's too gussy up in the face with all that makeup and the shadow looking eye makeup and the hair. And she looks too hot to be a disturbed person. You know what I'm saying? But sadly, this is some tragedy in this movie because there's so many people dead. But before I get into that, I remember when I first watched this movie. I told this story before. It was my freshman year of college, and it was October, around Halloween time. I don't know if it was actually on Halloween or just around that day, but I do remember it was October. And my RA decided to have movie night in the courtyard. So me and some dorm people were out there, we're watching it, and he got 13 Ghosts and Don't Say a Word, and I fell in love with both those movies. And he had like a pumpkin carving contest, and I won by carving Ghostface into the pumpkin. So my prize was a gift card to Blockbuster. Boy, that takes me back. There's not even a Blockbuster today. So I went out and I went and bought both movies and stuff. And if it wasn't for my RA, I would have never even heard of either of those movies because nobody ever really talks about them. But Don't Say a Word is a very good thriller. Now, on to the sad part. Since this movie came out in over 20 years, there's been a lot of deaths in this movie. Some of them are from like the older cast, but some of them are from the younger cast as well. And it's very tragic when you stop and you think about it and stuff. Like Judy Sinclair, she was like an old lady in like the movie where they break into her apartment and they kill her, and she literally has no line of dialogue and you barely see her. I remember her from an episode of Goosebumps. And so there are a couple of others like Larry Block, he was like the doorman. And then there's Puerto Rican actor Victor Argo, I believe his name is. He had a small role as well. And okay, this person wasn't really in the movie, but they have kind of like a cameo with archive footage. Steve Irvin, the crocodile hunter, like when the wife is watching television, he's on there. So it's archive footage, but nevertheless, may he rest in peace. It was so tragic, him getting stung by that stingray. Lance Reddick, he is in this movie, but he has a very, very, very tiny role. And to tell you the truth, a lot of the people of color in this movie have like the smallest roles ever. And it was tragic, him dying at the age of 60, I think 2 years ago, because he had like heart disease and stuff. And may he rest in peace. Skye McCole, Bartusiak, I think that's how you say her last name. Holy crap, dude. I had no idea she passed away in 2014 at the age of 21. I think they said she had a seizure in the backyard behind her mother's house. It is so tragic to hear that, especially watching the DVD, the making of the footage, which you can also find on YouTube, the making of this. Like, these are like her baby dolls she has in her hand and her arms and stuff. And it's just like, oh my God, dude, that's so tragic. At 21 years old, she barely lived an adult lifestyle. And I think she had a boyfriend at that time. And it's just kind of like, man, that's so tragic and stuff. But the one that hit me the hardest was Brittany Murphy herself, the co-lead. I was so sad when I heard this woman passed away many, many, many years ago at the age of 32. I think they said she was anemic and that she I think like just the common, it was common cold or something like that. And this is so weird. She died from that. 'Cause first, it was a mystery. First, they thought it was some kind of mold in like her bathroom or something like that. But yeah, both her and her husband passed away. And she was such a fun, great actress to see her on screen. She was the voice of like the blonde girl on King of the Hill. I think Lynette was her name. She was the female lead in, what was that movie called? Happy Feet, the adult version. And I remember I saw her like, in Cherry Falls, a slasher movie. But nobody will ever forget her playing that one character in the Clueless movie, rolling with the homeboys and everything. Like when she was singing that song, like that where a lot of people remember her from. But oh man, rolling with the homeboy when she was just singing that and talking about shares of virgin, he ain't gonna want you, and all this other stuff, man. But she's been in other movies, and stuff, and it's just that was just so sad when she died. So may she truly rest in peace. And watching this movie, it hurts, man, because she was so talented and stuff. Like she really put on a performance in this movie, and the fact that when you go to the Wikipedia page, I don't see nothing about nobody being like nominated or nothing. I probably have to go back on her Wikipedia page to see if she was, because if not, that's just a crime right there. That's just a crime. So this movie is very straightforward and everything, It's about a crime that happened 10 years ago. See, these group of men and some others, they robbed a bank and stole a little red jewel. And so Sean Bean plays Patrick, and we don't even find out his name until the end of the movie, right before he dies. And yeah, Sean Bean dies. It's just like he dies in everything. I don't understand that. And so he is the leader of the group, and he desperately wants this jewel. This jewel is worth $10 million. And then back then, that was a lot of money. Now it's kind of like chump change if you're like rich. And now people go into the hundreds of millions and if not the billions. And one of the things like a head scratcher where it's kind of like, well, why didn't they just rob like the bank full of his money to make $10 million instead of like being so desperate to go to these lengths to get this little jewel over 10 years later and stuff. So it's one of those head scratches where it's kind of like, some things in this movie just don't make a lot of sense. And because they're highly skilled at what they do, like Guy Torrey, I have no idea who he even plays in this. But like I think it's Martin or something like that. Cause they don't ever say nobody's name really. He's he's like a slit talking high tech person, who can crack like safes and stuff like that, and always running off the mouth. Then you have Max. I'm trying to think. It's Conrad Good or Goody. He plays Max. He's the one with the long hair, and he's like the brute force of the group. Like he'll snap a person's neck, but he later has a soft spot for like little kids. He don't like seeing them hurt, And so those three, along with two others, stole like this ruby, but then two of the guys conned them. And so when they finally found them, they chased the man down with his daughter and everything to the subway station in New York. And then, they pushed him onto the rails, and he got hit by a train, and his daughter witnessed the entire thing. And, she developed PTSD because of that. And she kept the jewel with her, the ruby thing with her the entire time, but then she hid it somewhere. She hid it inside her doll, and those men, they know where she put it because she put it in her father's casket as he was being buried. But the thing is, they don't know which number the casket is. I'm assuming he was like a John Doe because they just have numbers, but I think they knew that guy's name when they did prints and stuff. So once again, if that one dude Martin is so high tech, why didn't they just find out where he was buried at, find his number, and go about it that way? They could just ask the people at the what's the place called, cemetery and stuff. So they didn't have to go through these lengths of killing people and kidnapping people. They could just easily went to the place like, hey, what's his name at? We want to go see him. That's all they had to do. So it's one of those head scratcher things again, right? So Michael Douglas plays Conrad, no, Nathan Conrad. And this is the first time I ever saw Michael Douglas in anything. This was before his hair went gray and he had that disease in his throat. I think what was it, like throat cancer or something like that? And so it was the first thing I ever saw him in. I knew he was famous because of who he was. Um, and he's a really phenomenal actor and stuff. Like on the trailer of the DVD, they had the Wall Street trailer, and he just seems so good in that. It makes me want to go find and watch that movie. And so he is our main hero. He's a psychiatrist, and he has like his own like building office where he does his counseling and stuff. And he's very wealthy to where he lives in a big penthouse like mansion type apartment. He has a very young wife and an even younger daughter. But the thing about his character is that they made him far too perfect. He couldn't do everything. He's the ultra loving husband, the ultra loving father. Like, he's highly intelligent. He can figure things out very quickly. When he's making breakfast for his family, he's dancing, singing, and like listening to music. Like he's kind of like that dream guy that they like make in Hollywood. And his wife is at least 30 years younger than him. If not 20, 30, something like that. And all I could think of is how the heck did he land her? Oh, money. And stuff, because we don't know what his wife does, because she's basically incapacitated throughout the entire movie because she's confined to that of a cast and everything, because her leg is messed up. And so like as he goes and like attends to like his wife Aggie, played by Famke Jensen, like from the X-Men movies. I remember her from that. And then I later saw her in a couple of other movies and stuff. So I was a huge fan of hers at that time because like I had never seen this woman before, right? And so she doesn't do much in the entirety of the movie. I'm like, how can you not make Jean Grey do anything? So her leg is completely jacked up from the toes all the way to the thigh. She has a huge cast and it's like on a harness and everything. So she can't do nothing. I'm thinking to myself, why would they write the character like that? But anyways, he gives her hot oil, like, baths and, they're making out and all this other stuff. And so the next morning, he like making breakfast and he's looking for his daughter, Jessie, and can't find her. And he realizes that the lock to the front door has been broken. Somebody went in the middle of the night and stole his daughter, which is one of the most terrifying things that a family member can have done to them. As he's trying to call the police, somebody is on his phone line, and so he's all like, get off, get off. And then it's like the kidnappers and stuff. It's Patrick, and Patrick is giving him a set of rules and talking about how he kidnapped his daughter, and if he doesn't do exactly what he wants, then he's gonna kill her. They have Nathan act so heroic that he even like sasses the kidnappers. He hangs up in the dude's face. And the wife is pissed. I'm like, how can you do that? He's all like, oh, they're going to call back. Trust me. Because he figured if they really want something really bad from him, that they'll be eager to call back. How he would assume that, I don't know. That's part of like his like plot armor and everything. Because the killers could just be like, well, screw you. We're just going to find somebody else to do this. And so like... basically what they want is a number. The number, but they won't say what the number is. The girl Elizabeth knows, but she won't tell nobody. And so they tell him he cannot talk to nobody, he cannot call the police, he cannot let nobody know what's going on, because if they do, he will kill like the daughter and stuff. And they just give him a bunch of instructions because they all like, look, because he has a brand new patient given to him by Dr. Sass. And so like he's on a deadline too, that they're giving him a certain amount of time to get this number. And if they don't get it, they're gonna kill his daughter. Now, this is another head scratcher. They waited 10 years to get this ruby. You think they could wait a little bit longer instead of giving him a deadline, because who else is going to try to get, like, this information out of a girl who will not talk to nobody? Because they've tried to get the information out of her through other means, and she literally attacked an orderly and everything. So they kidnapped somebody who um was a loved one or a family member of this orderly, and she took like a pin or something like that and just stabbed the crap out of him over and over till he almost bled out. Like, this girl will not give up this number for nothing. She will try to strangle your behind and stuff. And later on, Jennifer Esposito, she's in this and she plays Detective Cassidy. And she's one of those hard-nosed, go-get-em type like cops who would do anything to get her culprit and stuff, even if it means leaving her own child behind on Thanksgiving just so she can find out who murdered, like, this person and stuff. Like, she's one of those type of cops. And so she's like very like, what's that phrase? I can't think of. Not thick-headed, but hard-nosed, I guess you could say. And she doesn't take crap from like nobody, right? And so she's, investigating the homicide. Now, originally she wasn't even in the movie. They later put her in the script. And because of 9/11, they were gonna delay this movie, but decided not to. And so, like, she finds a Jane Doe in the water. She has like cigarette burns all over her body. She's bruised up. She's bloody around like the chest area. They really did a number on her. So she's investigating and finds out who her boyfriend is. And so her boyfriend is Dr. Louis Sachs, Oliver Platt, well, played by him. And it was the first time I ever saw him in the movie too. And so, because I seen Jennifer, and I still know what you did last summer. And so, like, with that Dr. Sachs, he's the one originally who wanted Nathan to like see Elizabeth, because he said, I got a weird patient. I need you to see her. You got the touch. They used to work together back in the day till Nathan went upstate. And so, Dr. Conrad, he talks to Elizabeth and realizes she's faking and stuff like that. But then when Conrad can't get no information out of her, he overhears a cell phone ringing. Now, the kidnappers have a very specific cell phone that they like welded like a metal piece onto like the dial pad to where it only receives calls, but you can't make one out. Once he realizes that, he realizes the doctor is working for him, and he is pissed. See, it turns out Sachs had his girlfriend kidnapped, and originally it was Sachs who was supposed to get the number from like the girl, but he was unable to, and that's how Nathan got involved with these people. It's because of him, and he's all like, look man, we just get them the number, they'll go away. But of course Nathan does not believe that. Well, in comes Detective Cassidy. And he's playing dumb, like he doesn't know what she's talking about, and he doesn't know who that girl is, but it's his girlfriend. And she's all like, this is a picture you took of this girl months ago in the park, and this is a picture I took of her dead body. This one you took, this one I took. Which one you think was the better photographer? I'm like, holy crap, that is savage. And so then he finally confesses and everything, talking about we had like, a week to like get this number and everything, and they told us and they wasn't gonna harm her. So he got duped and everything. So this girl, Elizabeth Barrows, she's about 18, 19, 20 years old. And she has actual PTSD, but she also has a photographic memory. And she remembers what the killers look like. She remembers, where she hid like the jewel and everything. And she remembers the number of the casket. So She's been in 20 different psych wards, and they diagnosed her with 20 different mental illnesses, but she only has one. See, the thing is, she knows those men are gonna get out of prison one day, because even though they pushed, her father onto the train tracks, they didn't actually like kill him. So she is terrified. So she had the smarts to pretend like she's super crazy in the head and live in a mental facility. And there she has lived for 10 years, disconnected from the real world. Like, she doesn't know nothing about the real world anymore. And so, as they're gonna release her, this is when she starts mimicking the personalities of the other mentally ill people. So people don't know what the heck is wrong with her. They just think she's really messed up in the head. But Nathan, he does a test on her because she's supposed to be catatonic. But then her arm, when he does the arm test on her, it flops down to her side. And he realizes, that's not what real catatonics do. And you have to pay close attention to her facial expressions and her eyes and stuff. Because once she realized that Dr. Nathan figured out that she's faking, she starts to look with him with a pissed off looking face. And she'll do anything to get rid of anybody. Like, she'll roll around in bed and talking about you want to touch and everything, hoping that they'll get fired. If they start asking about like a number, she will try to harm them. And he starts asking about like, this number, but he does it much later on. So he's trying to build a rapport with her. And honest to God, like, this is Brittany Murphy's best role ever, I think. Like, she really looks deranged. She looks tired. She looks like she's not there. Her eyes are always wandering around. She like, twitches her fingers every once in a while. She'll tap her feet. She really seems like somebody who's not there inside, This was a phenomenal role in which she did. But the doctor's trying to do his best to get this information from her. So he starts bringing some of his, like, his child's toys for her to see and play with, because she was young at that same age. He gives her chocolate. He gives her drawings of his daughter. He gives her, like, her doll. And she likes the doll more than anything else, because it reminds her of her doll, Mishka, that she hid the jewel in. And it's so funny because as soon as she starts playing with the doll, she's realizing what he's doing, because she's not crazy in the head and she just wants him to get out. When he refuses to get out, she has this like panic attack that forces him out and everything. But this man is determined to get the information he wants. So he literally goes back to her and he just tells her straight up, hey, look, these people you've been running from for 10 years, they got my daughter. She's your age and they're going to kill her. She's freaking out, but at the same time, she's worried for this little girl. And so when he's constantly asking, what the number is, and she's just, dude, she literally turns around, sits up straight, acts completely normal. She's like, nope, not going to tell you. It's just like, it's so funny how she's such a comedian and she can like chameleon, and she can like turn on and turn it off from being crazy to normal. But then she tries to strangle him and everything. But he literally consoles her and talking about like he knows she's scared and he's scared too. And it's when she finally breaks and just he embraces her in his arms and she's bawling in tears. Because at this point, she knows she's extremely like screwed. This is the third person they've sent after her. And at some point, they're going to come for her and everything. So the doctor, he sneaks her out of the psych ward and they drive. And he later contacts like, the kidnappers. I love when she's in the car because like she's just constantly looking around because she hasn't seen the outside world in 10 years since she's been a little kid. Everything is so new to her right now. And so as they're like walking around and everything like that, so like this is a beautiful, sad and tragic scene. They're walking around Chinatown. As she's narrating what's going on, you see glimpses and flashbacks of her and her dad as like, they was younger, when it was like a good time for her, but when it was also a scary time, when they had to run from the killers, and they went down in the subway station into where the killers or the kidnappers or bank robbers, what you want to call them, met up with them. And she went and hid, and they like threatened her father. They started kicking him and beating him, and she just starts hollering and screaming as an adult about how the people just watched and didn't do anything, because that's what people do nowadays. If they touch somebody trying to stop them, that's assault and they can get sued. So nobody helps people no more. And she's just really upset, couldn't understand why this is going on. And then she's just flashbacking so much from when he fell down on the rails, and here came the subway train, and it literally squashed him, to the point where she feels like she can see and reach out to him, and she tries to go as a new subway train is coming, but the doctor had to pull her back, and she's just hollering and screaming, and it was so tragic. How did she not win an award for this? I do not know. And so, like, they head on a ferry, or first they steal a boat, and they go to, I forget what island it is. I'm unfamiliar with New York. So the daughter, Jessie, is as smart as her father. She realizes she can build a rapport with one of the kidnappers, and she does with the big, tall, scary one. And so they start like singing, they eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and then when he leaves, she goes to the window to see where she's at, and realizing she's only on the floor below that of her apartment. So she's smart enough, if she can sing really loud near the vent, then her parents can hear her and stuff. And that's what happens with the mom. And so because Patrick figures this out, he sends Martin to go kill her. So this is the only action and the only real thing that Aggie gets to do, because she tried to like call the cops on the cell, but then they have surveillance cameras inside her apartment. So she is like in a restraint, like she can't move. So she's trying her best, and then her and the Martin dude, they fight and struggle, and she's able to stab him with a metal rod while she's on crutches and everything. So of course she calls the police, but by this time, the rest of the kidnappers and stuff are on the island. So there we get to hear the rest of the story from that of Elizabeth, about how she put Mishka in like her dad's coffin. It was cold one morning, and like, the guys were putting the casket like on like the ground and stuff like that, and she told him her daddy gotta be safe, and he can't be safe unless he has her doll. So like they let her put it in there. She's really cold, her lips are turning blue, and now she's telling this story, and she can see the casket going in the ground. Once again, she's bawling in tears as she's writing the numbers out. But this is the wrong number. This is like to a woman's casket. And the reason for that is that when she used her finger to like carve around the numbers on like the casket, she did it backwards. And so Nathan lets them know that. So Patrick has them like, dig a hole and everything. And then so they find the ruby, but then in comes Detective Cassidy. There's a shootout, and she gets shot, and she ends up killing one of the other guys. This is when Nathan realizes, hey, look, man, this is my only chance to get up out of here. So he fights Max, and he knows, as old as he is, he ain't gonna be able to handle this dude. So he picks up the shovel and he starts whacking until Max gets the shovel and breaks it over like a tombstone. So then, Nathan, dude, he fights dirty. He puts like dirt in the dude's eyes, kicks him in the balls, takes the handle to the shovel, and just starts beating the snot out of him. But then Patrick ended up killing Max because he doesn't want to share the money. And then so after, like Cassidy comes in, and Patrick and her have that like shootout and stuff like that, Nathan gets like the ruby, asks this dude for his name, and he gives him one of the coldest messages ever and tells him go fetch it, and he throws it in kind of like this almost makeshift like shaft. So Patrick, and he kicks Patrick down in there. As Patrick's getting the ruby, Nathan pulls like a lever, and Patrick is literally buried alive. And I mean alive. It's one of the coolest ways to go out in a movie. And poor Sean Bean, he dies again. So, the movie wraps up. Nathan's talking to Cassidy, thanks her for her help and everything. He goes and sees his wife. He gets like his daughter. His wife no longer has crutches. What happened to that? They don't show her legs. So I'm just assuming they just pretending maybe she's just leaning on the car or something like that. So after he's excited to have his daughter, he goes over to Elizabeth and tells her, let's go. And I'm thinking to myself, where is she gonna go after this? She has no home, she has no money, she has no job. I'm assuming he's gonna take her in and let him live with her, which is one of those cliche things they do at movies like this, to where the hero of the movie lets the victim live with them and everything. And it's so cliche, it's so Children of the Corn. But yeah, this is a very good movie. I think it's on Hulu. I'm not 100% sure. But you can probably find it online somewhere. But this was a really good thriller. You're never bored watching this movie. Never. And you're always wondering what's going to happen next. Like I said before, it is a shame it was a box office bomb and stuff. But some people are starting to appreciate it now, just not many, because once again, nobody's never heard of this. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.